Right, we're live, mate.
We're live. Wicked.
Thank you for joining me, Louis.
Thanks for having me, man. It's late, so I'm sorry, but thank you.
It's all right. Like, it's one of them things, this, mate, because it's late for me because I have like the hours of a small child, but it's like actually the later they are, the more views we tend to get in real time. And given I don't get masses and masses of views yet, we're working on it. You'd think I'd like put my sleep schedule on hold for it, so maybe they'll learn there.
Well, no, I think more of us need to prioritize our sleep, don't we? So we need a lesson out of your book.
Yeah, maybe there's a happy middle ground somewhere there, mate. Right, mate. So before we get cracking, I've known you like what, maybe 5 years now. I don't think I've ever asked you how I say your last name properly. So I'm going to try it. Can I try it first?
Yeah, I think you have to have a go first.
Chavannes.
No? It should be that. It should. That's way better.
Well, the hand made it, didn't it?
And the hand. It's not that cool. It's just Chavannes.
Chavannes.
Yeah.
What is it? Where does it come from?
Well, it's originally Haitian. So my dad's Jamaican, and it's got a French influence. So I think it's like French from Haiti. But despite that, I should know more, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's interesting lineage, mate. That's I didn't know that about you. Now you've said it, you've got some of the features. You've got some features now. You've said it, you know. You're just probably a bit lighter than I'd imagined. Oh man, we always get off to a good start on Defiant show. Oh, mate. So let's do a quick. We've obviously butchered your name. So do you want to do just a quick intro to anyone that doesn't know much about you? You know, that elevator pitch, mate.
Oh man, my name's Louis. I am. There's nothing much exciting. I'm a personal trainer by trade and a nutritionist, and I run an event called Pick It Up, Put It Down, which started very small. It is just through community support, grown less than small, which is cool. And I'm blessed to have met you along the way, Steve.
Thank you, mate. You're too kind. Well, we're going to come on to Pick It Up, Put It Down. But one interesting thing you said there. So you're a personal trainer and a nutritionist. Which do you think, this just came to me while you said that, because like, what do you think is harder for people? Do you think it's harder for people to get their nutrition right or to get their fitness right? Because I know to a lot of people, they go hand in hand. But in the early stages, that's not quite the reality, and people struggle quite a lot with both of those things. So I don't know, which do you think is more difficult? And then we'll dig a little deeper.
I think that's really, I think it's really hard. It completely depends. So depends who you're working with. Like, we are more in that CrossFit style world where training has more of a direction potentially than the person who's never stepped foot in a gym before, or like they're starting off doing like a couch to 5K. So the fitness objective is different. I think with training, there's a little bit more. I think with both, there's much more variety than we assume. I think people are typically more dogmatic in their assumptions about what nutrition has to look like. I think if that's a fair thing to say, I think people assume like great nutrition looks a certain way, but actually it can be much broader. Much like there's varieties of mechanisms of training that can get us like relatively healthy.
So from a nutrition point of view, that's interesting, isn't it? Because optimum nutrition for the human body is very different to what the layman is probably capable of consuming on a daily basis. And then on top of that, when you have people at different levels of performance in sports, whatever the sports may be, they'll need a certain level of maybe carbs or sugar that you wouldn't necessarily recommend as part of optimum human nutrition. So is that hard to navigate? Because I guess the more you know as a trained and like specialist nutritionist, is it hard sometimes to prescribe people things to eat that you know on the face of it's probably not the greatest for them, but they need it?
I think it's much easier when you approach it firstly with like really clear, transparent communication with the people you're working with, and also when you look at it like when you take the perspective of it's almost like you would phase training and you wouldn't really think about that. So like your training will taper or increase as you maybe approach an event, and it's the exact same with an athlete. Like the things that is like the same thing, whether it's carbohydrates or the nutrient density of the food. Sometimes with athletes, the challenge is like reinforcing it's okay to not be meticulous when you're in like an off season. Just as it's okay reassuring like your 50-year-old lawyer who's like, oh, I should be at the gym like 4 times a week and I only made it 2 times last week. But yeah, I think as long as you sort of are able to be really transparent and frame it just like you would with training progressions, I think that's okay to do. And that's really how our nutrition should look.
Yeah. I think as well, it's like, it's education's part of it, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's maybe, because that's one thing I think like I didn't know until much later. Like I just didn't know how nutrition worked at all. Like, you know, like you don't learn it in school. And then, like now I'm much more aware. And like, don't get me wrong, I'll like cut loose and have a party and nail a pack of digestives every now and then. But like, I'm like, I feel it's from a much more educated place now, cool. You know, whereas before it was like, I thought like if I drank calories, they didn't count, you know, that kind of like complete
all got
like,
these wild, mate, we've all been there, man.
Yeah. All been there. So let's go back there, mate. So pick it up, put it down. And I think it's pretty symbolic that we're having this podcast like just a couple of weeks before the event, because it's the 10th anniversary. It's a 10th one. Like, mate, that is insane. So like what 10 years is like a long time to do anything, let alone something as stressful as putting on an event that we talked about a little off camera. So talk me through the origin, like, because like I'm really interested to know how their first event looked, and also like what drew you to the cause. And if you could talk a little bit about Air Ambulance KSS as it is, that'd be really good as well, mate.
Definitely. And you're right, it is stressful, but the positives outweigh the stress, and some of the stress is the most fun bit about it. Like one year we had this marquee. It was 30 meters long and 12 meters wide on 3-meter legs. And this marquee, man, like no lie, it nearly flew. And it was the most stressful thing because like it's like life or death. But you're just looking across at each other. Everyone's just holding a leg, and you're like, what is this? So there's a balance. So like, I'll try and keep this really brief because pick it up, put it down means different things depending on where people came in along the road. But very long story short, we lost so a friend of mine, a really strong dude in the community called Dan Osborne. So before obviously pick it up, put it down started, and we were trying to think of a way to sort of celebrate Dan and what he stood for. Dan had always fundraised for leukemia lymphoma research. So we were like, all right, what we'll do is like Dan loved to go to the pub. So we'll have some booze. He loved to do fitness stuff. We'll do fitness stuff and we'll fundraise for leukemia lymphoma research. So the first year was for them. We just did it out the back of the gym that I work at. And it was like 30 of us. We sort of threw it together. Everyone volunteered their time. It was amazing. And we just lifted weights. I can't say we. Everyone else lifted weights and got really drunk. And we did that again, but as it came like emerged, we realized that the Air Ambulance had attended Dan. So we then made this decision that actually that's what we should be supporting. So from our second year, we started to support the Air Ambulance. And from there, like it was, so from year one, it has been only made possible by everyone getting involved. And then second year, it was even more. I remember being like, hey, oh, guys, can I borrow like £200 off each of you? And we're going to put some money behind a bar. And then the next time I was like, guys, can I borrow some more money? And we're going to get a marquee. And it's essentially been that until so as I've alluded to, we had the marquee over the road. So the rugby club, opposite where I work. And it was awesome. It gave us more space. It meant we could have more athletes. But what we realized was, and we've sort of got this day part, which is the fitness thing, and then the party after. we realized it wasn't catering for our athletes, and more athletes were coming from different places. Like I started to not know people turning up, and I remember being like, this is mental. We need to do them justice. As well as that, we have issues with like sorting power and whatever. So we then again was like, guys, can I borrow some money? It's like a message. Can I borrow some money? And can we go to the South of England Showground? And since then, as you know, we've grown from there. We are so lucky to essentially just be this like hive of the best of our community. And that is the only reason it's made possible. We've got all the athletes that come along. We've got this year like 184 athletes, which is the most that we've ever had. It's amazing. We've got some amazing sponsors and a wicked like music lineup in the evening as well. So that's like the sort of, hopefully quite short summary of where we've been and now where we are.
No, mate, it's incredible. So I first came, what would it be? Would it have been, I think this is my 4th year coming down, isn't it? So it must have been 2021.
Have you always been at the showground?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it probably is their 4th year then, yeah.
Yeah, the drive down is like, it's the low light of my year. And then I get there and see your smiling face and it's all right. But
I'm so sorry, mate.
Mate, it's so far.
I'm so sorry.
I do that thing, you know, like I almost have to tell Matt Tyler he's right. See, that man moans about driving anywhere, doesn't he? You know, Matt, like, you know what he's like. But when I do that drive, because I know he's like quite local to where you are, I'm like, yeah, that kind of with Matt on this one. It's arse end of nowhere, isn't it? It's like,
well, that's just your perspective because it's south.
Well,
You're
yeah,
like, it's
obviously,
nowhere.
yeah.
But was it Matt that it must have been Matt that put us in touch with each other, right?
Yeah, 100% must have been. Yeah.
And that's, mate, that's like, I really mean this. That's sort of that's so the other thing that Dan sort of said, like, obviously, like we drink, we lift weights, and we've raised money for the Air Ambulance. But he was like a local, like he brought businesses together and stuff. So that's one of the things that's really important to us is like you see the person behind the business, we get involved, and you've stayed with us and supported us now. And people expect to see you there, man. So you've got to lock that drive in.
Well, it's testament to you, though, mate, as well, and what you do down there with it, that we're coming at all this year, because I know me and you had conversations quite a bit this year about it, because we've stepped back from events, and the only ones we've done are either Defiant ones, obviously, because it'd be a bit weird if we went at our own events, and CrossFest, because we've got a sponsorship with
cool.
Lance and the team there. So like when me and you were talking about it, I was like, well, the official answer is no, but I really want to come because I love what you're doing. And then I remember when I text you saying, fuck it, I'm coming. Because it's like that, innit? If you're like feeling like you should do something through want, not through obligation,
and
you just fucking do it and figure the rest out. And then like, we had a bit of a celebration by text on that point, didn't we, mate? So that
it's like you going to the CrossFit Games. You just did it.
Yeah, just make it happen, mate. On my own. To be fair, though, mate, my flight to the CrossFit Games was shorter than my drive to you last time. It was. I'm telling you, mate. It's not always that bad, but that Friday coming down, Jesus. In fact, I'm not coming, mate. I'm not coming.
Matt said he would pay for a driver to come get you.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, they've got a big van for all the stuff I'm going to try and sell. So let's look at this then over the last 10 years. So I've seen it grow. 184 athletes is incredible. So what have we got going on the day? It's pairs, isn't it? It's teams of 2. Is it still that format this time?
So we've been completely reliant on listening to essentially what people tell us that they want, and that's been, I think, like that is a part of what we are, because we are based. It's the community that build, pick it up, put it down. But as we started off with mixed pairs, and then as we've grown, we realized that there was this desire for teams. We also learned, because as we grew, we got more into like the CrossFit space and learned what people expected, not just what they wanted. And they deserve what they expect. So we're like, right, we need to do RX and scaled. So that was the next thing. We introduced teams, and initially teams was like a smaller part of it. And then as we grew, the teams is now we have more teams athletes than pairs, and it started to take a switch up in that direction. Then the athletes were asking for an RX division in teams. So I'm pretty sure this is our first year. It is for RX teams. So that's essentially like, and then the other thing that's changed is the first time we ever did it, it was just one thing. So you'd come along, everyone ran through the same workout, and it took all day. And then we sort of did that, I think, for a couple of years. And then it was like 2 workouts. And then people were like, really, we should be having 3. So we're like, cool. And now it's gone up. The other thing we changed is we used to go from like, you'd have like wet, and then it'd be like quarterfinal, semi-final, final. We've moved a little bit away from that. But yeah, that's what it is. That's the format for it.
So do you think it's become a little bit more like challenging because it's got a real good vibe of fun, and like everyone's there for the right reason? I'd say the right reasons. Everyone's obviously always at fitness events for the right reasons, but you know what I mean? They come in to have a good day out. There's a bit of a party after. It's a sort of really good atmosphere. The emphasis is clearly on fun. Have you found it challenging trying to sort of balance that with having, you know, more serious people coming down when it's RX and stuff like that? Has that been a challenge for you?
I think it's like, I think it comes back to listening to what people want. I think like I certainly come from, and our communication is very about like community, fun, and I think the first thing is the team. There's like that balance. If you look at like the people that sort of head up our game side, you've got Rye, Theo, like Theo is athlete to the core. Rye is like our Team U Castro.
Yeah.
So we've got like, so in the team, we've got that dynamic, but then I think it's a part of like, yeah, we've got our ethos. So that guides us, that like community element, but it's listening to the athletes because they're the ones that hold us to that standard. So it's easy because we listen. I think it's not easy to do, but it's easy to know what we need to do because we listen and they tell us, which is helpful.
That's it. And I think it's that, you know, that's a resource so overlooked in many. I'm not going to say it is a service industry, but it kind of is because you're providing a service that people are paying for. People don't ask for feedback, and when they ask for it, they don't act on it or even listen because they're like, oh well, no, that's because of this. Well, no, it doesn't matter. That person's experience is still that person's experience, regardless of what the reason is. So if you can have a positive impact on that at all, they're going to keep coming back, aren't they?
100%, mate. Like I completely agree, and it's so easy to like get a email or an Instagram message and take it really personally. But at the end of the day, you're like, they've taken time out of their day to tell you. Like it's like being doing an exam at school, and the teacher comes on and goes, "By the way, you're going wrong there." You'd be like, "Thank you so much for telling me."
Yeah. And
we don't know because we don't experience it. So, but I think it's also important to say, like, we don't pretend to be the CrossFit Games. We know we're not that. And competitors know that. I think if we tried to pretend we were, we'd get called out on it really quickly. And there are events that cater to that standard, which we aren't.
Yeah, and you never want to be, dear. That's not the point of what you're trying to do.
No.
And it's interesting, actually. We were just talking then about taking feedback. I remember this year at the Defiant Games, someone came moaning to me, and I pretty much told him to fuck off in a roundabout way. But so I need to practice what I preach, maybe. But it wasn't. It was more because he was moaning about something that wasn't really a thing. And whatever I said to him, he continued. You know what I mean? So it was, you know, those people that aren't trying to help you get better, they're just trying to moan. And my tolerance like dropped off a cliff. And but
look, I think look. Firstly, I definitely get it. Like I get it. But I think the other thing is like you also like when you evaluate the impact of what you say, because I get it, and like when we're chatting, I'm like, yeah, like, I understand that. But then what you have an opportunity in that instant to be the guy that he goes away and goes, oh yeah, Steve really listened to me, or be the guy, Steve's trying to fuck off.
Yeah, but I obviously listened to him because we're still talking about him now.
Yeah,
so
he won.
He's living rent free in my head, mate. He's
rent free.
But I'm not changing anything based on what he said.
No, don't change, man. Don't change.
So when we look at it, then, mate, like the emphasis is on fun. That's put there, like clear for all to see. You know, the hay bales are everywhere. The fancy dress is there. You know, the themes there. Is it hard to keep coming up with like new ways to keep it like sort of engaging and fun over the years? Because it must be that's the pressure in itself, isn't it?
I think it's like what I know I do because I'm actually like I'm not very good at being. I'm a bit OCD, but I wouldn't say I'm the best at being organized. So if I'm on a task, I get super focused. But what that means is I'll have a week where I'm like, cool, pick it up, put it down, games. And then, like you said, hay bales, I'm like, shit, have I like ordered the hay bales? Like I forgot that that's a thing as well. So it's okay, we're saved because we have such a good team. So we've got people that I look after, like say Kim that looks after our reception desk. So I know like she's on that. We've got Matt who looks after the bar side of things, like Rise on top of the games, and Theo looks after our athletes. So we've got everyone who sort of looks after different bits. So basically, like I'm a complete fraud. I don't deserve to be here. I don't need to be here.
But that in itself, twofold, is the art of being good at what you do. One, you've got the attitude that draws people to you, that want to work with you, help you. But also, like, hiring people or working with people that are better than you is a life hack, isn't it? If someone's better than you in a particular thing, get them to do it for you, because then your skills are better placed elsewhere where you can excel, aren't they?
Mate, I couldn't agree more. The scariest thing to me now is, especially as someone with an OCD, like it is something I say all the time because I swear on my life it is so true and I'm so aware of it. Pick it up, put it down could not exist without everyone being involved. Like if I got a text message and like any one of the team was like, I can't be in, I'd be like, oh my God. Like it now depends on the involvement of everyone. If the athletes weren't there, like our sponsors, which is the best thing about it, but it's also the thing that makes me feel really nervous.
Yeah. And it's those weeks leading up, isn't it? Because when you put an event on, there's so little you can do for so long. You just got to hope everything comes together. And in the last 10 days, it's just the most frantic thing ever. And that's when you realize.
When you run the Defiant competitions, what day do you get in the venue?
So we can drop a few bits off on the Thursday, a few bits more on the Friday, but we don't get in until Saturday evening to set up for the Sunday. So.
Oh my goodness, man. You deserve a medal. He's wild.
Thanks, I think that's the reality of a lot of them, though. You know, when you're in these, especially the sports centres and stuff, they've got stuff going on all sort of year round. So we're lucky we even get in at that. I know sometimes, you know, you've seen the size of CrossFest, haven't you?
Yeah.
Sometimes Lance at CrossFest, he's not got in until they've had an event on at the place on the Saturday, because it's like a bar and like they have gigs on. He's not got in till like 3 a.m. And then he's setting like a full-scale rig and everything up. It's like, it's mental.
That's so crazy. That's so underappreciated, man. I don't know how you do that. That's crazy.
But that's the thing, and that's the thing I think sometimes, you know, when maybe you catch someone on the wrong day and an athlete comes up and moans about a no rep that was actually a no rep, and you tell them to fuck off. They haven't seen what you've actually done to put that event on. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, but he's back again, that guy.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. Man, I was judging for Conquer the Farm the other day, and it is I think judging is the most nerve-wracking thing in the world. The pressure that feels on your shoulders, especially when you can't count for toffee. It is awful.
Mate, I feel like you're going to have the attention span of me as well. I'm like, 1, 2, that's a great cloud. Like, shit.
Yes.
You look like an honest guy. You just tell me when you've done.
Yeah. I'm like, I reckon they'll bat. I think they'll believe 7. I'll throw in a 7.
And I'm one of them people, mate, as well. You know, even if I'm looking directly at you and my head's doing the counting, I'm still like, something's happening in my head that's computing it all differently. And yeah, I'm more a kit mover, I think.
You've got the vibe I just cannot imagine that ever gets rattled. You've got such a cool vibe. I just can't ever imagine you like looking like you're not in control of the situation, even if it's going crazy around you.
I think, mate, I'm pretty chilled. Well, I'm very chilled, but I do have things that wind me up way more than they should. You know what I mean? So I've got like, if everything's falling apart around me, I'm very good at like being cool and thinking, right, how do we fix this rather than shit, it's breaking. Cool. But if someone like cuts me up in traffic, I'm like, I'm gone. Like,
that's human nature,
yeah, what I found out, mate, is actually the thing that pisses me off or that makes me like lose it is when people are rude. So when people are rude, whether that's being blissfully unaware of you, you know, ignoring you when you do something nice, cutting you up and not saying sorry. And then what I've realized is people that are rude piss me off. But then when people are rude, I'm more rude. So I'm the problem. And I need to figure that out a bit, really.
I am exactly the same. Like, I get it. And I've tried to, and I failed. But I remember I was surfing in Devon once, and so that's exactly. I remember like someone's on a roundabout or whatever. You let someone out, and then they don't say thank you, and you're like, oh man, you could have said thank you. I remember I was walking through. Have you ever been to Croyd? It's like quite a famous little town in North Devon. I was walking down, and this guy had come around a roundabout, or whatever had happened. Someone had let this guy out, and he didn't say thank you. So the other guy was like, "Come on!" And the guy I was with was local. And he was like, you can tell he's not from around here. And I thought he was talking about the guy who cut him up. And I was like, yeah, it's really rude. And he went, no, the guy who wasn't happy about him not saying thank you. He was like, because you're like, we're so chilled around here. Like, we don't even expect it. It's just like, relax. And I was like, I can never be that. I can never be that good. I'm never going to be that guy.
Yeah, like hold a door for someone, they don't say anything. You're like, you're welcome. That kind of shit.
100%.
Yeah. I listened to a podcast once about, not about that, but they got onto a similar topic, and they were saying that if you do something like that, if you hold a door for someone and they don't say thank you, you've got to like take yourself out of the situation. That's what they were saying. So you've done your good deed by holding a door. That was your objective, was to hold that door for that person because it's the right thing to do. Then if they choose to not acknowledge that, then that's their choice. Yeah. So then if you become angry at what they've chose to do, you've lost the goodness out of what you did by becoming angry. And it's trying to, and I don't know what point it becomes though, because I feel like the moment you've had the thought, you've already, even if you don't make it an external thought, you've already had it. So how do you teach yourself to not feel that thing?
You can't control it, can you? It's not a decision you make to feel like that. That reminds me of like, I remember once someone said to me that, you know, if like you're in a relationship, and if you take the example of like I don't know, your partner doesn't, leaves their socks out in the morning, like their dirty socks, and doesn't put them in the washing bin, and that like, really irks you. Someone once said to me, like, you should frame those things. So you end up picking the socks up and putting in the bin, and like your reaction is to be like, oh, like, that's so annoying they don't do it. They're saying, well, you can't control, like, obviously you can't control someone else's behavior. You can't control their feelings, whatever. But what you can do is reframe it. And I don't know how easy this is to do. I don't even know if I do it, but you treat it as a gift. So like, I put them in there, and it's not like, oh, I had to, like, it annoys me. Like, that's my gift that I'm not going to tell you about. And when they said that, I was like, that's a really nice idea. I don't know if it's possible, but I'll let you try, Steve.
I think, like, I'll tell you this, mate. Right. So, I don't care if she's watching or not, to be honest. So my ex, who I used to live with, she was very much like that. And I used to just do the stuff and became immune to doing it. But I think the thing that bothers you in that situation is they don't know whether you've done it or not. So you know, they obviously didn't mean to leave their socks out. You know, they're just that wired in that way that isn't a thing. So it's not like they come back and go, oh, thanks for putting them away. And I think that's what I'd struggle with in that situation. But equally, no two people are alike, are they? So,
mate, that's the hard. I think that's the point. It's trying to detach yourself from, which I can't do. So, show me the person you can. But I think the idea is, they were saying, it's like trying to detach yourself from the gratification that they decide you get. And so you give it to yourself by being like, I'm giving a gift. But I hear you. And also, there's a point where you're like, come on, man. Like, the washing doesn't do itself. Like, you know, it's me.
But I do feel like, though, in those situations, this isn't what happened to me because I got dumped. It's not like I dumped her. But I feel like you do it. To start with, it pisses you off. Then you realize it's just who they are and you love who they are, so you let it go. But then the moment it starts to piss you off again, that relationship's over. That's what we'll say. You go on that journey, and the moment it starts to be a problem again, whew.
Dude, and like, you get all prophetic and you're like, yeah, like it's a gift. Like, oh yeah, it's this gift. And then as soon as you argue about something, you're like, remember that time I put myself yeah, that wasn't a gift. You were just locking that away, ready to go.
It was ammunition for the next time you bollocked me for something. Oh, mate. God, we could do an whole other show on this. This is good stuff. I feel like it's a bit of therapy for both of us, mate, in some weird sort of way. This always happens on my shows. I don't know if it's me. We talk about all sorts. I like it. We deserve more viewers, really, mate, for this. Right, let's just come back to pick it up, put it down before we like, I don't know, tackle any other demons that we may have. So this year, I did see one of the things I wanted to ask you about this year was MCR coming along, sponsoring. So what's the deal with them? Because that's fucking massive, isn't it? So for those that don't know, just tell them about MCR, who they are and what they are. And
so like coming back to like the athletes they've been so patient, man. Like they deserve a rig, and it's really difficult. Like financially, essentially, what we do is we have, like, in any event, you have loads of costs. So the money we get, we have to pay for all the stuff. And then what we have left over, we give to the Air Ambulance. And then we keep like a little bit to pay for deposits on stuff for the next year. But as we grow, that gets scarier because our costs go up, but we don't keep any more. We just keep a little bit back. So because of the consistent support from everyone who comes, we were in a position to feel confident about, we were like, maybe this, like in the next couple of years, we need to now invest in the rig, because as much as, sorry, I've gone a bit around the houses here, much as it's like it's a big expense, you cannot just assume that people are going to be like, yeah, I'll always come to pick it up, put it down because it's for the Air Ambulance. Like, people's time is valuable, and you definitely can't take that for granted. And that's why you've got to keep investing in the event, trying to make it better, listen to people. So sorry, in a roundabout way, that's why we knew we need to get a rig. And we were like, oh, this is a bit like, can I borrow the money for this? Can I borrow the money for this? Can I borrow the money for this? This is our next one. We're like, it's expensive, but so we were like looking at different places. Won't say any company names. We're like looking around, and MCR, really good communication. I was really honest. I was like, listen, because initially we were looking, because they obviously support strength and depth. And I was like, hey, like, how do I hire a rig from you guys? Like, and I remember I was walking through the field with my dog, and I remember speaking to this really, really lovely woman. Can't remember her name. I'm sorry. And
was it Ellie or Kathy? They're the ones I spoke to.
I can't remember. Maybe Kathy. I can't remember. But she was like, yeah, we can hire. And I was like, my dream is to buy a rig, but like, we're we are a non-profit. Like we are a community organization. We give our profits to the Air Ambulance. She was like, no worries. Like, we'll look at, I was like, but just out of interest, can you send me some costs? So we had this rig drawn up. It was like a bit to and fro, and I'm like, oh, actually, maybe this is something we can afford. And they were kind enough to give us a bit of concession on the account of what we are. It's still an expensive rig, and they're a business, and we never want to take someone for granted on that. So they've supported us a bit with delivery and things like that. We were like, had a big discussion with the team, and we were like, we eventually decided that we were going to commit to it. And that is with support from friends that said if financially we didn't do as well, they'd help and stuff. Anyway, so yeah, MCR have helped us massively. They've enabled us they're fabricating a rig for us, which was so exciting. Scary as sausages. Which will be delivered in the setup day. Here's a funny thing, Steve, but you're not going to find this that funny because you managed to set your event up the day before. We take like 3 days. So all our stuff is stored about an hour and a half away, and we do like a few runs to take it over. We normally get in there Wednesday because we're like rigging lights and whatever. And so I've got the rig to be delivered Wednesday, and it's just loads of steel. And I was chatting to another guy that we have to, I don't really understand why, but we have to pay this other guy for this like extra bit of electricity. I'm such a layman in that world. Anyway, I was chatting to him, and he went, by the way, what day are you in there? And I said, Wednesday. And he was like, nah, they've got antiques in there. And I was like, no, they wouldn't have made that mistake. So it's probably my mistake, but it transpires that the rig, all of that steel, is arriving the same day the building is full with antiques. and I can't put it in there. But that's still something I need to sort out how to do.
What they got coming down, mate? They got David Dickinson cashing attic or something. Is that what's happening? Get him on rig.
We'll keep him there. We'll put him on the mic. That'd be great.
Yeah, you never know, mate. That's fucking awesome from MCR. And they are like, I know Rich, who's got like, he's quite heavily invested in it. I don't know if he's like the sole owner or something. And they're just such good people. Whenever I've had dealings with them,
wicked people,
really good. And that's like,
people.
I think that's the thing. And you know, when people come up through the community, they genuinely want everyone to do better, and they're the ones that'll be successful. You know, because it's like, I remember, like, I know Greg Glassman can be polarizing. I love him, and I love the way he talks about business and CrossFit and everything. And he said that with CrossFit, when it was coming up, everyone wanted him to sponsor fish oil pills or have T-shirts that only CrossFit could sell with the name on. And he let the affiliates do all that. And he said he's not putting his name to nothing. And his philosophy in the business he created was, he doesn't need his piece of the pie to get bigger. He just wants to grow the pie. And if he grows the pie, everyone's piece of the pie gets bigger. And his by default does. But if you put the sole effort on making your slice of the pie bigger, then you take up the whole pie and there's nothing for anyone else. And then everything falls apart. So growing in that way, which I think people do in the CrossFit space especially, is if everyone wants everyone else to get better and lifts everyone up, then we all benefit from that. And
dude, definitely, like rising tides, like, dude, 100%. Like so the boxes that help us it's amazing, and I know it affects them because they'll lend us kit, and that will affect like what they can do in their classes. Sometimes they won't run classes that day. Like the gyms and boxes that help us on a smaller level is wicked. And you're right. I think the CrossFit community is so unique in that it doesn't do what other community like takes all of their paying members to another gym. Like, you don't see that you don't see like Virgin Airlines being like, hey guys, we're all gonna go fly an EasyJet today. Like, no one does that. But there's just this trust, this faith, and this like complete authentic, like, we're all in this together. And I back that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, you embody that as well. Like, you've come up to the Defiant Games, you know, the drive that we talked about, and helped judge there. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. Although I'm not so happy I had you judging now after that revelation earlier about your counting abilities and your attention span. So yeah, maybe not again. But anyway.
Yeah, no, those scores are wrong.
So out of the 10 years of doing it, then obviously you touched on briefly the marquee situation. What, I guess let's have two questions here then. What's the biggest thing you've learned over those 10 years?
I think are you still there?
Yeah.
Cool. You're still there. Cool. I think that the biggest thing I've learned is, do you know what? There are two really poignant moments, and one of them was when we were still over the road at the rugby club, and talking about generators. And a friend of mine owns a very large, I don't even know what you call it, but a company which has loads of electricians. And I know Rye's going to be watching this, or like watch, and they take the piss out of me. I can hear him taking the piss out of me, which is like getting in my head. But very long story short, he took me aside, and because I started like, I was 19 when Pick It Up, Put It Down started, and I'm still a bit of an idiot now. And we had this thing up, and I hadn't thought about health and safety, Steve. And I was like, I didn't really ever have that responsibility. And Chris took me aside, and he was like, first he'd spoken to all of the guys that were there helping us like do stuff, and he took me aside, and he was like, almost like a father chat or like a brother chat, and he was like straight with me, like, this is your responsibility. If something goes wrong, it's on your head. You've got to get this right. And I haven't really taken that off. Like, it was such a valuable lesson. So even though it's not the exciting lesson learned, it was one of the most important. Like, just having to be like, what you want your team to be like creative and exciting, and then sometimes just being like, okay, right, this is the boring safety element that we have to think about here. And often it will go over my head, but that's one of the biggest things, is taking responsibility. And I think the other one is just the value in community, letting stuff go. Like, realizing you're not the right person for certain things, and like trusting other people to certainly do a better job than you.
Yeah, that's a great learning. You know, the first one you talk about, like taking responsibility, is that something, I'm not talking about pick it up, put it down now, because people that are capable of taking responsibility do that in all walks of the life, and are able to sort of transfer that skill across multiple areas. Is that something you've always been good at, or do you think like you've learned that and then honed that skill over years? Because the reason I ask that, mate, is because I'm very, I don't mean it in a dickhead way, I'm very good now at accepting that everything's my fault. You know, no excuses, no nothing. If something goes wrong that you couldn't control, then maybe you could control it, you just haven't found out how. You know, the moment I've catch myself saying it's not my fault, I try and stop myself in my tracks and find a way that it can be. But that's a skill I feel I've learned. You know, I feel like I wasn't like that, and I feel like I'm getting more and more like that the more I'm in, you know, conversations with people like you and in the CrossFit community, especially. How do you come across that ability to take responsibility?
Sorry, I know my thing keeps freezing.
It's all right, mate.
I think.
I thought you were just thinking.
No, definitely not. Well, I'm glad you thought that. No, I was trying to count again. I'm certainly not the best, and I was really bad at it. Like growing up, my closest brother's 10 years older than me, and I was really competitive, really bad loser, never took responsibility. If I was ever told off, it just wasn't my fault. And then I know this is going to be controversial, probably not with you. I'm going to say it. I love the Joe Rogan podcast, and I also remember I read Jordan Peterson's book, and if I'm honest, I do try and think about this a lot. I think that's when I got really acutely aware of just the power of like trying to take responsibility. And it's obviously something you've got to practice because it's not easy. And I'm still not good at it. Things happen that are bad, and I will talk too much about that's so unfair. And actually, that's like you're saying, it's just not only is it not taking responsibility, but it doesn't empower you to do anything about it. Exactly. So even if maybe you think it's not my fault, if you can take it, and of course it's not always possible, take from it what you can. It just enables you to do something about it, and you feel less like a victim and like more like you can do something about it. I don't know if that made any sense.
No, mate, it makes absolutely perfect sense. Like absolute perfect sense, because it's exactly that. There's too many people out there that haven't developed that skill, and like you said, then you're just a victim. You know, it's not, you don't even know you are sometimes. It's like, oh, that's not fair. Oh, that's where's the line then? Because then like someone gets a job over you. Oh, that's not fair. Well, maybe they were just better than you. You're never learning that, you know, it's your fault. You can't get better, can you?
And even if you're screwed over in a situation like that, firstly, like it is okay to like be like, actually, this is shit that happened to me. Like that is okay to have that emotion and feel it. But even if something crap does happen to you, like when you're ready and you've processed, actually, this is just a bit shit. When you're ready, if you can find that like, okay, but this is what I can do better, then at least you get something from it. And also, that I agree with everything you said for sure.
Yeah, and I also think it's not sad, because I'm with you. Like, you know, the fact that we have to, in certain circles, maybe feel marginally embarrassed that we listen to people like Joe Rogan or read people like Jordan Peterson, when, you know, because everyone's so quick to dismiss how they are and just clickbait headlines that demonize them, when actually, you know, I've learned so much from the people Joe Rogan has on his podcast just because of the way he talks to them. Jordan Peterson, I can't speak highly enough of his methodologies and the way he comes to conclusions. And people don't want to address those things because, you know, sometimes they can be polarizing. But there's a reason people are drawn to those people, because they try and empower their listeners rather than dictate to them. And I think that's the key difference in society.
I completely agree. And I think that regardless of where you sit with any of that, like, just because there's a lot I disagree with, like, and I think that's the important thing, is that you can disagree and agree, and It's not your identity. Like what you said about Greg Glassman, I find it so hard to get away from what he says about nutrition. I'm like, bro, like some of the stuff he says, I just disagree with. But I think at this, like, and the same time, some of the stuff Jordan Peterson says on the subject of nutrition, I'm like, dude, like, and the thing that hits me with that is I'm like, oh man, you helped me so much. And then you said that. And now I'm like, I don't even know if I can trust anything you say is true. And me coming around about this point is, I think one of the best skills that we can try and learn, and it's something obviously we've got to practice, is that like critical thinking. Just like not taking everything that we hear as true, or at least like when you hear something, just like playing with it in your head a bit and being like, okay, like I'll evaluate that before it just lands and then I react.
Yeah. And it's having the capacity as well to listen to people that have views that you disagree with and not getting offended by them. That's a real skill. So I listen to some podcasts with people on that might have a very different opinion to me on certain subjects.
Yeah.
And I find myself reaching for my phone to turn it off. And that's when I'm like, no, listen.
Yes.
Because it's not about you. You know what I mean? And it's
You're
just
so
trying
right,
to do
mate.
that. And it is hard.
You're so
really
right.
hard.
Yeah. I like feel what you're saying. I've definitely been in that as well.
Yeah, and that's good. See, we're on the right path, mate. We're on the right path.
I do. I like that is such a thing. I'm like, oh gosh, like, then you're like, no, stop. Do listen to what they've got to say. Yeah, and more people agree on things than not. Like, I think if you were to take 10 people from anywhere and you put them in a room, I am sure they will agree on 90% of the stuff.
Yeah.
But the nature of the world we live in is we focus on that 10%, and then we all think we're out to kill each other.
Yeah. And it's the people that don't have, I guess it's those people that have such strong opinions that aren't their own. And then you can never reason those people. I put a post on the other day with a quote I'd seen that said, you can't reason a man out of an opinion who didn't form that opinion based on reason. And that's the thing. And that's why I'll try and listen to alternate views and try and listen, because am I just pissed off that they don't agree with me, or are they wrong?
Yeah.
There's two very different things there. You know what I mean? And I feel like we live in a society now where people are just so quick to read a headline, not get the full story, not really understand the subject, and then die on the hill of that headline because that's all they know, and they can't even remotely tolerate the possibility that they could be wrong, even though it's not even their opinion. And it's crazy.
Dude. And also but we're all like I do this loads. I find myself listening a bit too much, especially recently to the news and stuff. And I'll listen to LBC. So I'm just listening to people argue. I'm not learning anything from that. But we then sometimes get distracted from like our responsibilities just day to day. And I remember hearing, again, wow, this has become like a Jordan Peterson episode. But I remember watching a conference he was in, and someone challenged him, and they were talking about, I can't remember what they're talking about. And he made this comment about like making your bed. And she was like, why do you keep talking about making your bed? And he was basically like, we so quick get caught up on like running up this ladder to challenge these massive things, but we can't lose sight of like the responsibility and just your day-to-day tasks, like looking after yourself. For me, I'm not very good at managing communications and stuff like that. And I'll end up chatting for half an hour over coffee about Trump and Putin, whereas I probably should have spent that half an hour just like organizing my emails.
But like, you'll get to your emails when you get to them. But if you're having a conversation with someone about, and I think that's the thing in it, is it's any conversation you have with anyone about something with substance. If you're open-minded enough, even if you agree, you still learn something. If you disagree, you definitely learn something, whether it's about yourself or the subject. But like those human interactions that I just think, I don't know, I've become much more open to them over the last couple of years. You know, like I've always been like relatively like, I don't know, I've liked to talk to interesting people, but I feel like the more I've like consumed information or alternate views or had good conversation with people, the more I've like appreciated how little I know. And then when I started to appreciate how little I knew, it was unbelievable how much I started to learn.
Yeah,
it's just like, it's just something that I think that's when I say I've been on the journey, taking responsibility and all that, because back in the day when I maybe didn't take responsibility, definitely didn't, I was a fucking know-it-all. So I didn't have them doors open to learn from all these
Yeah,
people that
man.
knew way more than me and I feel like it all goes together, doesn't it? Once you start out on that quest for knowledge or
Definitely.
truth or whatever it may be, it's everywhere and you just got to fucking explore it, man.
There was someone, one of my clients actually said it, and then it came up at uni as well. It was this like phase of I don't actually, oh God, this is really embarrassing. I don't remember what essentially like the title of this is, but it's essentially like becoming an expert in something. And I think you can apply this to anything that you want to do well in, whether it's running an event or becoming an accountant or whatever that is. And we all like you start off in this phase of like unconscious incompetence. Like you don't even know how much you don't know. And then you go to like conscious incompetence. So you know that you don't know a lot. And then you go to conscious competence. So you know how to do a good job, but you have to think about doing the good job. And then you eventually get to unconscious competence, where you just do a good job and you don't even have to think about it. And I try and think about that a lot, because especially when I'm struggling with something, I'm like, oh no, this is the phase I'm at. Like eventually I'll know what I'm doing. At the moment, I just know that I don't know anything.
So conscious incompetence then. So I guess that's where most people fail, because they realize how little they know and aren't mentally equipped or strong enough for the battle to push through that.
I think that's definitely the point, isn't it? Where you're like, you decide, you're, oh wow, I don't know enough about this. I think most people, I don't know, I feel like people, that's the point where people get like that little teaser and they're like, oh, that's like the carrot to the horse or whatever, and they're like, oh, now I know what I want to chase. But before that, you don't. Dude, when I qualified as a personal trainer, man, I thought I knew, like, I definitely thought I knew everything. And the stuff like, you know, like I've spoken to Matt about this before, and like the stuff that you used to think you knew, it is absolutely atrocious. Like if I could go back and slap myself, I definitely would. And now I'm what, however many years I am into that and nutrition, I'm so keen to refer. Like I'm like, I know my box, and then if I don't know about that, there are so many people that know much more about other stuff. Like, oh, you want to do really good at gymnastics? Cool. That's not me. You want to really do this? This is the person you need to speak to, whatever that is.
Yeah. I love that. And what's really cool about this, mate, we're having this conversation. I chatted with Ethan Yates on Monday, and he was talking about his journey of becoming what he now considers to be a very good coach. And I said, what makes you a good coach? And he basically said that he recognizes that he's always learning. The next time a new information comes out, he'd go on that course, he'd go on that course, he'd go on that course. And he looks back at the coach he was 5 years ago, and he's like, fuck me, I thought it was great. And I wasn't. And you're saying the exact same thing. And that's what I mean about talking to these types of people that all have that mindset of wanting to get better. And all of you say the same thing. And I fucking love that so much, mate. It's so good.
I wanted to ask you, so, because I don't know, but you obviously you've got loads of strings to your bow. So what prompted you to start the Defiant Games? And then I also wondered, what is one of the biggest challenges you've had on the road with the Defiant Games?
So what prompted me to the Defiant Games is probably, I started that, which was ignorance and naivety. I started the Defiant Games to get eyes on the Defiant Co.
Okay.
Right. And if it hadn't been for COVID and me having to swap the date, basically the first Defiant Games didn't happen for 18 months after it should have, 2 years in fact. Wow. And if that hadn't have happened, I do not know what the fuck would have happened, because I would not have been capable of doing it.
Really?
So yeah, because I booked the venue, you know, I booked all the good media people, and I was like, oh, the rest will take care of itself. And then because of COVID and it getting put back, and then what I did was I was ultra cautious. So when I moved it the second time, I moved it so far in advance that it would definitely happen.
Okay.
And then I went on the road with the Defiant Co. Basically every comp, every weekend for as long as you can remember. And then I was like a sponge. I was at a competition every weekend. So I was like, that works, that done, that done, that done, that done. And it enabled me to not only learn a lot, but also meet people that, like we talked about earlier, want to help you. So I do not know what I would have done, mate, like if it hadn't been for that.
Okay.
But the biggest challenge is me. So you've got all those people in place that help you, that you've divulged responsibility to. I'm in this weird place where I've got those people around me, but I don't want to say too busy because that's just a cop-out, but I'm not utilizing them as effectively as I could in order to take some of the pressure off me, because I'm just in that camp of, well, I know they're all busy anyway, as long as they turn up on the day and help me. So my business partner, Tori, and Donna, who helps out massively every time we have an event, they both said to me, they said it 2 years ago, and I kind of listened to them, but didn't, obviously. And they said it this year, you've got to get it out of your head. You've got to give it as, have meetings. So this year, for next year, we're going to schedule a meeting in advance and have like roles and responsibilities and all that good stuff so that we can get it out of my head, because it's all well and good, but I get hit by a bus. The show needs to go on, and no one knows what the fuck's happening and when it's happening. And yeah, so it's a weird, but I kind of don't do that through. It's not through a lack of wanting to relinquish responsibility. It's more through a lack of, I can just get it done, and that's where the disconnect is. Because I learned in my corporate career very early on the skill of delegating, because I remember the first person that ever promoted me to a team leader, obviously I had to relinquish a lot of my day-to-day responsibilities on the help desk because I worked in IT. And I said to her, but these people, they don't do it as good as I do. And that, that's how raw and naive I was, because that's why I was getting promoted, because I was good at what I did. And she said to me, like, if you don't let them fail, how can they ever get better and start to fill the role that you're leaving them? So like I learned, and that'll always stick with me, that, like, because I was like, what if it goes wrong? She was like, oh, it just goes wrong. Then you fix it, and then they never do it again. And if they do it again, then they're not the right staff anyway, and you get rid of it. Yeah. So I learned that very early on, and I've just not seemed to be able to do that. And I think it's partly because, the Defiant Co was me and my dad, and he was like very much back office. He did a lot of the doing, the postage and the accounts and the tax and all that shit, but didn't really do anything that I did or know anything about what I did. So I kind of learned to maybe work in silo and just get my head down and think, right, if this needs to get done, I've got to do it. And now, because I'm working with people that, like Tori's now my business partner, she wants to take that responsibility from me and help. You know what I mean? So it's making sure you lean on people like that more, isn't it? And learn to do that. So yeah, so twofold, mate. One, start the Defiant Games through pure naivety. And the main problem with the Defiant Games is me. So there you go.
That's very honest. Coming back around full circle with responsibility. I think I get it. I think like the thing that I find most fun is the working with people element of it, and it is really hard to relinquish that responsibility. And I find it hard. Have found it hard. Now I don't even have a choice. Everyone's better than me, so I do it anyway. I don't even need to be there. But I probably shouldn't be there. My point was, I really love working as part of a team. So like, I love the chat, and I love like those moments where you're looking around and you like look across and like someone's sorting something out and you're like, hey man, can you help me with that? And then they jump in. It's just like, those are the bits I'm like, yes, like this is the magic happening. Like that team element is just, that is the freaking best bit about it. The night before, setting up, pick it up, put it down, or maybe 2 nights before, and we're like sitting around sort of like on hay bales, everyone's really tired, and we've got pizzas coming in, and you're just like chewing pizza, and you're like, this is the best bit. Like, this is the best bit. Yeah, okay, fair. So what is your plan then with the Defiant Games? So are you going to grow your team?
Yeah, by default and by necessity. So we're definitely going to relinquish more responsibility this year. It's a tough one though at the moment. Like, that's why I'm going to talk to you about the ticket sales, because obviously you've smashed it with the most sales you've ever had. I think like I've been speaking to a few of the comps up here, and there's a few people struggling a little bit now, because there are so many competitions, and then the High Rocks model, not necessarily the workout itself, but the model of being in and out within 90 minutes as opposed to having to commit your entire day to something. I think the comp scene is changing, and we're evolving with that with the Defiant ones. We're doing an individual comp, and we're doing that it's basically 75 minutes and out.
Okay, fair.
And I think that's the way the Defiant Games is probably going to go. So I'm not talking from like a Hyrox workout standpoint, because to be fair, having said that, the Defiant Games, with it being no rig, no high skill, is pretty similar to just a functional fitness racing event, and just looking at how we can get people in and out quicker. My only challenge with that, which I don't say dislike, but does that detract from the atmosphere on the day of everyone being there together for the day?
But maybe not. I'd like that's my. But then, like, people quite rightly are like, "Oh, what's it waiting around through the workouts?" It's so hard to get that balance, and it does appeal. I'll be interested to know what you think about Hyrox, because I don't know enough about it. I know that the workout, I think, is the same every time. Do you think that they will ever change that? Do you think it will stay like it is, like football is a sport? And do you think it will survive if it stays that way?
I think the challenge they'll have, I've been to a Hyrox and I've done one, and it was the best competition I've ever been to in terms of from an athlete experience.
Wow. Okay.
You turn up, you've got your time, you go to the fucking thing, you register, you get your band, and then they tell you your times. And if you're not there and you don't set off, tough shit. And I love that. So like everything's like really well run, like clockwork. So yeah, athlete experience, great. My thing with Hyrox is, from a volume point of view, as long as they keep cycling people and getting people through, then they'll never have a problem. But eventually, people are going to get bored of doing the same thing. And I think the moment they change anything, the whole model goes to shit. So they've got to kind of keep it as it is, because that's what it's known for and it's measurable, and that's what they put it in place for, to say, well, everything will always be the same. But say my goal is to get a sub 60-minute Hyrox. That's no mean feat, very difficult. And then I'd do it, Then what's my next goal? Because sub 59 don't probably keep me coming back to gym as much as a sub 60, even though it's an improvement. Okay. And then my thing is, over time, does it then just become boring to me? Because I've hit my ceiling. I can't get any better. What's my motivation for coming? And that's my only sort of, I guess, not concern, because they're doing all right.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know how they navigate that because it's still in its infancy, isn't it? Like whether or not they're making a play to try and get some form of it in the Olympics, you don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
Wow.
And then
okay.
You don't know, dear, because it is repeatable. And that's a problem CrossFit have always had. But then they don't have brands in the Olympics, which is another reason CrossFit can't get in. And Hyrox is a brand as opposed to a sport. And
interesting.
So yeah, I don't know. I think the immediate future is fucking brilliant, because you can't even get a ticket in the UK, mate. They fly in, but like again, will they ever hit that ceiling with the influx of athletes constantly rotating through? I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
That's why I wanted to ask you, because I just don't know enough about it. And you only really hear good things, and it often gets pitted against CrossFit, but it's a completely different thing. The word worry is like completely redundant, because they're fine. But my worry is like, I don't know how something survives if it is always the same thing and predictable like that. But then I'm like, oh well, like people do 5Ks every week, but then I guess you can run further distance. So I'm sure they'll change something, whether they offer a different type of event. And the Hyrox, as you know, it is Hyrox Alpha, and then they make a Hyrox Omega or whatever. But I don't know. But it's very interesting to see something like essentially infiltrate a fitness market, which is like a lot of CrossFitters. It's also brought in like triathletes and stuff. Super interesting space just to carry on watching.
Yeah, and Nike coming back to the functional fitness scene. They've had about a 2.5-year hiatus, and they're back. That says it all, doesn't it? They're going to be, what I mean? They want back in. So interesting times ahead, mate. Right, we're about there, mate. But I'm going to ask just one last question, because I know you'll never give yourself credit because you're not that way. But since I've been involved in or aware of Pick It Up, Put It Down, I know it's raised a hell of a lot of money. So how much money has Pick It Up, Put It Down raised since you've been at the helm?
It's been I'll answer that really quickly, but it's not just about the money, but we've raised, oh gosh, I can't believe I don't know the exact number. We've raised over 40 grand, which is really good. But it is also about it is also about the community. So that's a really strong part. And I think that's the reason it exists. Really, it's about like just demonstrating like people can come together. Like things can exist without necessarily just a financial motivation. I think if it was just financial, it becomes just a business, and then you are entering that world of just competing against loads of other events. But to answer your question, it's we want to break the 50 grand mark with this year's event. Then our next goal will eventually be like 100 grand. If we can get there for the Air Ambulance, that'd be fantastic. But the real testament, I think, is the fact that it is something that people are up for supporting. They know that they're a part of it. They know that they have influence over where it goes, and that's what it's about. My dream, Steve, is for eventually sponsorship to pay for the event. So we're like, at the beginning of the year, like Nike are like, hey man, how much money do you need, Lou? And I'm like, this much money. And they're like, cool, boom. And then we're like, cool, every penny that drops in just goes straight to the Air Ambulance. I think we're years off that, because that's not going to probably happen, but it'd be great if it does. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. It's incredible. One question, and I thought this at the last one. I don't know who I said it to, and it's just my cynical view of the world. You know, when they do the flyover,
yeah,
you know, they do the flyover. My concern was that must have cost a bomb in fuel. We're raising money for the charity, and then they're just flying over, waving at us. I'm like, oh man, oh fucking waste.
Brilliant. Guys, quickly do some more burpees. We've got to play them in 5 past. No, so they won't. So that's a really good point. So the flyover is never confirmed. They'll only ever fly over if they're already in the air and not to slow down going to a patient.
I'm gonna say, hang on, mate. Just stop. You see, you just stop dying for a minute. We're just gonna do a flyover. Can you just hang on a little minute more? Good caveat. Fucking hell.
As far as I understand, they've also come in a road vehicle before to us, so they can. So the flyover's never confirmed in case they're going elsewhere. Oh goodness, what was I going to say? Oh man, you said how much it cost for the flyover? Oh, that's so annoying. Oh yeah, one year, like when we were over at the rugby club, it was like, oh, it's so rogue. And because the party used to be like massive. Now it's like a pub tavern vibe, but it used to be like beyond control. But now it's like a nice chilled vibe. And this one, I can say this now. I remember we used to have these security guards. So it used to have like 4 security. Now we have 1, but like a couple maybe. But it's so chill, they're not needed. We just have to tick that box. But we used to have like 4 security, and they would eventually need to be needed because it was like the party that everyone in the town could come to. But as you know, we're now in the middle of nowhere, so people can't walk to it. And the security, I don't know where they were. It transpires they were sitting behind a pizza van eating pizza, and they're like, Louis, we need it. And anyway, in the car park, this girl was swinging this bottle, like full bottle of wine, to try and hit this guy in the face. And she's going, it's for the Air Ambulance. It's for the Air Ambulance. Like, and I remember going up, like grabbing her wrist, taking this bottle out and being like, if you hit him over the head with that bottle and the Air Ambulance has to come out, you've negated anything we've done today.
Oh my God. That's superb. Oh mate, I might stay over then if there's going to be drunk girls of that caliber knocking about.
You fancy your chances fighting?
Well, mate, it sounds like where I'm from. That, you know what I mean. You can't stick your head out where I live, mate, without a drunk girl swinging a bottle at someone. Anyway, enough about that. Right, I think we're done, mate. If you stay on for a quick sec after, and then I'll end the live. But anything more you wanted to call out? Are we good at that, mate? I think it's been a good chat.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cheers, mate.